Welcome back to the On Adventure podcast. I'm Josh Self, and I'll be your host today. This podcast is about how the everyday explorer plans and pursues adventure in their life. The pursuit is never easy, but the valuable lessons from the journey are always priceless. That's why I loved my conversation today with Jenny Richardson. Jenny is a mom to 3 growing kids, a wife, a pastor, a friend to one that's in need. And oh yeah, she's an Ironwoman with multiple full-distance Ironman triathlons under her belt. So you'll learn how she trains to get through the first half of the race and then prays her way through the second half. And also how she never lets a hurdle stop her, whether it's an illness, time limitations, or even being hit by a drunk driver. So without further ado, here's Jenny Richardson. Jenny Richardson, you're here with me in my office. We're here in Raleigh. It is interesting to see how these stories weave together the older we get, right? I mean, we look back and see how those mile markers line up. Obviously, triathlon's a big part of your life, or has been for a while. And I intended to ask you this before we started, but would you say that's from an adventure standpoint, has this been the biggest challenge and adventure that you've ever gone after?
It has been a big challenge and a big adventure. And I love adventure. Maybe the biggest that I've had to really push through, it's just different. I guess I've had other adventures like mission trips and going overseas and being in other countries that were big adventures that I felt like I was out on the edge or out of my comfort zone. But I would say this is one of the biggest ones that it was bigger than myself and bigger than what I thought. I knew I couldn't do it in my own strength or my own power. And it was like complete dependency.
Yeah. So you mentioned your brother a minute ago. He was the runner, but one of the things I'm always curious about is how growing up life gets people to the edge of the cliff. So what was that like? What was sports like for you? Is there a direct tie, or did triathlon kind of come out of the blue for you?
It kind of came out of the blue. I've always loved sports. I swam growing up. All in the neighborhood, we, never could do year-round. We didn't have the money to do year-round swimming. But we would ride our bikes. We'd get on our bikes. We'd ride down to our neighborhood pool. We'd swim all day. We'd stay at the pool all day. We swim on the swim team. So I always was active, loved riding bikes, loved swimming, loved exploring, and always just had a heart for adventure. Like it was just life-giving for me. But always grew up very active outdoors, playing in the creek, But I would say in high school, middle school, I played basketball. So I was always, enjoying sports. And then I ended up coaching cross country for about 4 years at a small Christian school, Bethesda Christian Academy. And that happened because I ended up getting into all the triathlons and became dear friends with the head coach. And then I became the head coach for about 2 years. And
Funny how that happens.
And then I'm running in the woods with all the kids, and that was helping me stay healthy. And I just loved it. So it ended up being something, I guess I got the bug for it later in life, but always enjoyed being outdoors and swimming and biking and running. I mean, that was just something that was just always fun growing up, but it wasn't like, oh, I was a big track star or anything like that,
The swim is usually triathletes' biggest challenge, especially for people just getting into it. I've seen people be really, really intimidated by that. And any sort of background in swimming, I swam year-round up until about 7th or 8th grade. And then I just stopped swimming until I was almost 30. So there's a little bit of muscle memory left in there, but I have a good friend who's actually, I interviewed for the podcast a couple months ago, who lives here in town. He is literally at his age, he's, I think, 46 or 47. He is a world-class swimmer.
Wow.
And he's doing Ironman distance. He's competed in the 70.3. He did Arizona a couple months ago, came in second.
That's incredible.
Qualified for world championships.
That's incredible.
But his superpower in triathlon is the swim. So he gets his lead, and then he has to try to hold on to it. Right.
I will say that is my happy place. That's not
really?
everyone's.
Oh
mine
gosh.
is the swim.
Yeah.
And it's not because you know what it is for me? It's actually just peaceful for me. Like I would say I can get more swimming in than I can probably even the bike or the run. Biking is probably my weakest link, and that's the biggest portion of the race.
Right.
But I think it is just the time, like to get out. But for me, it's like very calming. It's peaceful. Like I just grew up being in the ocean. My mom grew up in Florida. We grew up just in the water. So I think I was a water baby. I love being in the water. I mean, any chance I can get to go swim is like, it's almost, some people's like yoga or therapy because it's calm, it's quiet. And I can just get in the water. I mean, I'll go over over to the Y and just swim. Wow.
So it's one thing to swim in pools. Have you done any open water swims?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I do it. I like it's peaceful for me. Just like the ocean, the lake. Because I just love being in the water. So I don't get freaked out by now I will tell you, I've been in some where they're more choppy and that's more challenging. I'll have to, and I very much mix up freestyle, breaststroke, freestyle, so I can sight. I don't do straight freestyle because I find people that do that solely in races get way off track and then you're swimming more. So I mix it up. Like I'll do free and then I'll do breast for a while. And then it helps me just keep my distance short as possible.
What's the hardest swim that you've done?
The hardest has probably been trying to think, really. Louisville was the longest distance, I guess. And also down in Wilmington, it felt like I had some flippers on me because I caught current.
It's in the current.
And it was great. But I would say Louisville, I had to go kind of out and around an island. And because it was a good 2.1 miles. So I had to go up around this island and then back down. So once I got back down in a little bit of current, that helped. But just the distance, it's just a long swim.
That's a long way.
And you have to just to find that rhythm, that pace. I would sing in my head. Like I'll sing. That kind of gives me my rhythm. So I'm not like, there's an old song, I can sing of your love forever. I'm like, I can swim forever. Like I'll do whatever it is in my mind. I'll just sing it, And it may look like foolishness, I know, but I'll get whatever song and I'll just sing it. But it helps me to just keep instead of like getting too fast out of the gate, finding like a song in my head. So I laugh and say, people probably think I'm like delirious or crazy. Even on the bike, I'll just start singing to help me keep going when I'm hitting that point of.
Oh, there she goes again.
Oh gosh, she's crazy. But it'll keep me going. I'll never forget the night before my first full Ironman. I think I've done about at least 4 fulls and several halves and then smaller distances. But I am actually going to do a full this November down in Florida. And I'm excited about that to get back at it. I'm starting to train again. And I got a trainer. My dear friend Shannon Lowry, actually from our church years ago, she used to be a pro.
Yeah, I was going to say, that name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, she's amazing. So I was like, okay, Shannon, I got to get back in shape. I got to get back at it. So she's like, okay. So I have a meeting with her. But I'll never forget, the night before my first race, one of my dear friends, Laura Mihaly, I said, will you pray over me before I race? And they said, yeah. And Laura on the phone says, Jenny, I pray when you race that you'll just feel God's pleasure. And it'll be like chariots of fire. You'll just feel God's pleasure. And she literally said chariots of fire. And I laughed. I was like, okay, Laura. I was like, I will. I'm going to get out there. I'm just going to feel God's pleasure. And I promise you, I'd probably been racing at least 14 hours. It took me 15 hours and some change. And that first race, I was so tired. And maybe I was at mile 24. I'm almost at the end of the whole race. And I'm thinking, I got to go another mile. Like, can I keep going? And I'm like, mentally, yes, I'm going to finish this race. But you're hitting that point of like complete fatigue and exhaustion. And I am not joking. There's like, the tents along the way with music blaring and, the fuel stations. And I come up on this last fuel station and I'm so weak and I'm so tired. And I promise you, dun, 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 dun.
Chariots of Fire.
Like, dun, 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 dun. Chariots of Fire's playing.
Spot.
And I'm like, and I look up to heaven. And it's like literally the stars are out. At this point, it's 11 o'clock at night, And I look up and I'm like, I do feel your pleasure. I do feel your pleasure. And then made it to the finish.
6-minute mile.
Yeah. I don't know. It looked like that, right? But in my mind, this is what's funny. People are cheering for you. Keep going, keep going. And I smiled at one guy and I'm like, in my mind, I'm going really fast. Like in my mind, I'm really running that 6-minute mile. And in reality, it's probably looking like a 10-minute mile at
slower,
that point, right?
Yeah, for sure. But so you mentioned earlier, you really started right after Zoe was born. And women that become moms have a unique challenge to get into any sort of endurance, anything. How did that work for you? How has it worked as a mom for you to continue to pursue these?
Yes, I have 3 kids now and they're growing up and their needs actually get greater, not smaller. And I think for me, I can remember even I have boys back to back. They're 17 months apart. I put them in the double strollers. Zoe get on her bike and I would literally push the stroller in my neighborhood. It really started in my neighborhood. And I would push that stroller. And I think I was faster and stronger then than I am now because I was pushing a double stroller with 2 kids in it. And then I had Zoe, Zoe was my oldest and she was maybe, I don't even know at that point, even as I got older and, was still racing, she would time me and she would be sitting by the pool. Let's go, Mom. And I have this old video of her videotaping me swimming and timing me and said, this is how an Ironwoman trains. And she would help me, And so I would like get them to be part of the experience. And it's, it was encouraging to feel like, I can still do it. And then I would, when they were little, I'd check them into the Y and let them have their playtime. And I try to get in my laps. And then my husband does say, Jenny, you probably get in about half the training that most people do. And then you pray your way through the second half. And it works.
I know you got Corey to do some races with you. He probably did half of your half.
He actually, when he turned 40, I trained him and I got him to do his first half Ironman distance, right? And I had these like visions and dreams that we'll be racing together as we get older and like, off into the sunset. And I'm like so excited. So I finished. And actually I did a full. It was down in Wilmington. I did the full that day and he did the half. And I'm still just like so excited. I can't wait to see him and hear how his experience went. Because we saw each other out on the bike. And anyway, I crossed the finish line. I'm hugging him. I'm like, was it awesome? And he looked at me and he goes, I am one and done. He's like, I almost drowned out there. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, that is not what I was expecting because I loved it and he did not. But now that he's funny, now he's kind of coming back around. He's like, I think I could do some smaller, like just for my health, keep me moving, So now I think we'll do an Olympic or something fun. But it was funny how it's not for everybody,
But especially the longer distances, I mean, you can kind of grind your way through a sprint or even an Olympic if you're halfway in shape for many people. But those longer distance, it's a commitment.
A full you have to train for. And I'll be honest with you, this past year, I was so discouraged. So 2 years ago, I signed up for that Florida race. And then all hell broke loose. COVID hit. I got really, really sick. I got hit by a drunk driver, got a bad concussion, like one thing after another happened. And I deferred it and you can only defer it. So I think like at least one time. So I deferred it and I was actually supposed to, maybe I did it twice. However long I could defer it, I pushed it out because I just wasn't physically able to train. And I knew without training for the full, I just couldn't do it. It's dangerous. And so this year I was so discouraged. So I was like, well, I'll do it this year. I can't defer it anymore. And so I got my hotel, like I was excited about it. And then the year happened and I could not do it this year. And I was so sad. So I said, well, let's go down. And again, this was from 2 years ago. The timing, it was all crazy. And I told Corey, I'm like, well, let's go use it as a vacation. I'm going to go down there and watch the race, cheer everybody on. We already got our Airbnb. We can't get the money back. And I was like, and one of my girlfriends was like, Jenny, isn't that going to be like hard for you to like watch the race and you not be in it? And I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. It's going to be great. I will be good to cheer for everybody. I went down there and looked out at the water. I cried my eyes out for like 2 hours. I felt sorry for myself. I'm like, I haven't been able to do it like what I love and I want to race again. And then I'm like, well, I can get better or just stay where I'm at. And I looked at Corey and I'm like, do you support me if I sign up for next year and like really train? And he was like, absolutely. He's like, I know you want to do it. And so then I was like, well, I got to do something different. I got to get out of that pattern that I've been in of, not training at that level. So got a trainer and back at it again. But
that's good. Well, you just said something. You had an inflection point. You said, I can either do something different or stay the same. Mm-hmm. And that's the commitment that it takes. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've discovered, again, is with these longer endurance races is it gets to a point for everyone where it stops being a physical feat and it becomes a mental feat.
100%.
And that point is different for everybody, but you have to be prepared. You've got to train for that. And you have to have kind of a go-to talk or mantra, or I've heard some people call it the pain cave. When you get in the pain cave, this is my question to you. What do you do? When you hit that point, how do you handle that?
I think that's why I love the endurance race so much, is I really realized like I cannot do it apart from God. And I do hit a point where my physical body is just like, it's done. And I really do start worshiping. So like I'll pull out the old school songs. Yes, I will sing. I can do it. I can do it. And it's amazing what your body can do when you tell it. It can do it. Like you declare it, you speak it out. It will come into alignment with that truth and you can do it. But I really do feel like I know that sounds crazy, but I literally will worship my way to the end. I will sing, I will pray, I will focus on God. I'll focus on what he's done for me. I really will get into this mode where I'm like I will tap into another place.
Yeah, it sounds like a not completely an out of body experience, but where you dissociate from the pain itself.
Yes.
And override those circuits in your brain that are survival circuits telling you have to stop or we're going to die. You override that to say, we're not going to die. We're going to be fine and push past it.
And literally have to block out the pain. Like,
how far into the race does that happen for you?
Ooh, on that bike is when
the bike
is torture for me, because the position, like being down in that racing position on my back, and I'm not a fast biker. So if you think about sitting on a bike for 8 hours, that's a long time.
Yep.
I mean, I'd love to be sitting on it for 6. I'd love to get faster. But the reality is I'm not a super fast biker. So I would say by the time you're on your second loop, right? So, I mean, it's 112 miles. So by that second loop around and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do another 56. I got to do another whatever. It's like your brain is like, I got this. So towards the end, I would honestly say towards the end of my bike ride is when I'm really having to press in and just like tune out the pain. Cause I hurt on my bike. I just do.
Have you had any races where physically your body failed or stopped, like whether it was nutrition or cramping or
I had one race in Raleigh that was a half Ironman, and I was doing it right after a surgery I had, and it was about 100 degrees outside. It was so hot. I've never, ever thought I couldn't finish a race. I always was like, I will finish the race. And on that race, I hit towards the end of the run, and I was having so much nerve pain from the surgery and the heat. I almost felt like I was going to pass out, and maybe I was at mile 10 or 11. And I remember sitting there thinking, I remember just getting ice and like dumping it down my race suit and trying to cool down my core because I was getting to that like almost like delirium. Like, I think I might pass out. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't know, am I going to finish this? And then I remember saying, yes, you will finish it. But I had that moment where my brain was going back and forth, like, should I? Is it, right. Can I? What's good? Like, I did have that moment of like, and I remember crossing over the finish line and being so happy I crossed over, but being like, that's the first time I wondered if I was going to be able to.
Or even should have.
Yeah. Like, when are you pushing too much?
I mean, there's a danger point with any of these kind of races. And at that point, your brain's not really in great shape to be making that kind of decision.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I literally was almost like a little bit of delay. The heat exhaustion is what I think I had. Plus rehabbing after a surgery and having nerve pain. You can't control nerve pain. It is what it is. And so it was firing off. And I remember being like, I'm in excruciating pain. And
was that coming back down Hillsborough Street from
it was
the art museum?
Mm-hmm. I think it was whatever that road this one ended on Fayetteville Street. This was a half Ironman distance. And then it finished right down on like Fayetteville Street.
So you were back on Fayetteville Street when
I was, before I turned onto that road, I remember thinking like, should I sit down? And you know what's amazing? Out of the blue, see, God always sends people to encourage you. Like, I feel like when he calls you to do something. And at that point of like, I don't know if I can finish. And out of the blue, one of my dear friends from my neighborhood popped up looking for me on the race course, found me and said, come on, you got this. And she cheered me on and ran with me for several, probably several feet. It's like, keep going. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I made it. But I just remember that pain level was hitting that point of like, I was having a hard time not focusing on the pain. Normally I can block it out, like you said, like really block it out. But I was having a hard time blocking it out. I was like this.
That's the only half distance that I ever did. It was the first Raleigh race. And I think it was 2013. And that's the whole run was, it's on asphalt at a hot time of year, really, really difficult conditions. But when you come back down and before you get on the Hillsborough Street, you've been running on asphalt for a long time. And if it was a hot day, it's coming from underneath.
And you already have it internally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it was double. I remember that race was, I think it had gotten up to almost 100. It was like 99 degrees and it's so hard to race when it's that kind of, because it zaps your energy level in a different way, right? Like the cold, they always say you have better races when it's cooler, right?
I love running in the cold.
Yeah. And you have faster times and then the heat will zap you. But I will say I had one race where we got in the water too early and it was freezing. And I it was shaking. My teeth were chattering. And I think I burned. That was actually down in Wilmington. A crazy cold front moved in. And I promise you it was like 30 degrees in the morning. And we were in water. And I remember thinking I was blue. I have pictures of me getting out and I'm like purple. I am.
Wetsuit or no wetsuit?
Wetsuit. But just the cold.
I still got in.
Brutally cold. And anyway, but I remember burning so many calories doing that I didn't realize I had to take in more fuel. Fuel is everything.
Yeah.
Like I really learned from my dear friend Shannon. She was like, Jenny, when you're on the bike, this is the one thing I feel like I've done well is always fueled well. So I've always sustained like my runs, like even if it's a power walk jog at the end, because you're just fatigued, I've never felt sick, I was always okay because on that bike, your bike is your fueling station. You use your bike to fuel. She goes, I want you to actually take in fuel every 15 minutes on your bike.
Oh gosh, that's hard.
What? Something. She was taking something. So one little squirt. So you know what I did? Everyone does different things, but I literally did like Cliff Bars, and I would break them up into like little round balls, like that big. And I put them all on my bike, and I would reach in and try to have like a bite, even if I can't have a whole one, just a bite of one or sweet every 15 minutes. And I would get off to run, totally fine. But then I would see like grown men throwing up in the bushes and couldn't finish the race because they didn't fuel on the bike. I think they were just so focused on being fast. And she goes, focus on your bike being your fuel station. And if you can think of that in every race, your bike being because just your one time you're sitting, just focus on that every 5 miles, whatever it is for you. It could be miles, it could be time. For me, I did it with time, even if it was something, and then you can sustain, which is amazing.
So these are huge accomplishments to be able to finish races of this distance and magnitude. Did it change anything with your confidence in other parts of your life, things that you pursued or had going on?
I just think it just encouraged me. I think it really just felt like, I don't know that it helped me in any other area as far as like it changed anything about like I've always felt like I can do all things, through Christ who strengthens me. I think I've always felt that way. I will say when I crossed, it made me realize I could do way more than I thought I could do. Like, I don't think I realized fully, like when I first did my half, I'm like, wow, I did a half. I mean, I remember just looking up and just giving thanks and being like, wow, like my body did a half. Like, God, you gave me that ability to do that. That's amazing. But then I was like, nah.
There's more.
And then now I'm like, you know what? Now I'm getting older and I'm like, but you know what? I can still do it. I think it did make me feel, even as I've gotten older, anything you train for, you can do. And I think that was like mental, like as you get older, that's a win. That if you really realize, like, I think that mentality of, oh, I'm getting older, I can't do it anymore. I mean, some of the fastest people out there are the people that are older because guess what? They have more time to train. They're not changing diapers and, they're in different seasons of life. So I love in races how you can see the age a lot of times on the back of your calf, right? And I'm on my bike and who's blowing by me? The 65-year-old, the 50-year-old. And I'm like, man, like I'll be 42 in May. And I'm like thinking I'm getting older. And I'm like, well, the best is yet to come. And I'm competitive with myself. So I know what my first full Ironman race time was, right? And I'm like, this year, I want to go beat that time. Because as you get older, you get wiser. Like, more efficient. I would say it's not that, yes, you really learn like how to fuel, when to exert, when to hold back, when to, you kind of learn that in the racing. You don't go out of the gate super fast. Like some of the young people fly out of the gate. And guess what? On that run, you're passing them because they've burnt out, So you kind of learn, but it's kind of fun. So I think just realizing you can do way more than you think you can do.
I had somebody tell me early on, you can't, not that I ever had an opportunity to win a race, but you can't win a race on the swim, but you can lose it.
Yes.
And probably the same on the bike. Like if you just go too hard and you got nothing left in the tank.
You can lose it on that. Yeah.
I would say it's a humbling experience. I have a client that is 80 at this point. He's still doing triathlons, still swims with the Masters group down at Optimus Park, I think 2 or 3 times a week. And this was probably close to 10 years ago. I think he was in his 70s at that time. And I didn't realize until afterwards, but he did the same, I think it was Ballew's Lake Olympic distance in Greensboro. And I looked at the time afterwards, he beat me.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that crazy? You're like so humble. You're like, there's
humble.
A slice of humble pie.
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like, man, that is awesome.
Yeah,
I want to be that at 70.
Like that.
Yeah.
I want to be like that. I met a woman at the Y, maybe, and this again, when I was in my 20s, when I first started off. Now I'm, like I said, in my 40s. And I remember this woman I met, she was probably in her late 50s. And she goes, oh, I just love doing triathlons. And she goes, one reason why I love it is because you can have such a longevity in the sport. And she said, the reason why you have longevity is because you know what? If I'm hurting today, I'm going to jump in the pool. If I pound it too much on my run, I'm going to get on my bike. Like you really can mix it up based on how your body feels that day, And so she would get in the pool if she felt, you still have your training plan, but within that plan, there's room for listening to how your body feels and still being active. So I think that was interesting. It's not the same. Like if you think about a runner,
Pounding.
all you're doing is that. And then you're not working those other muscle groups either, which is interesting, some of the smaller muscle groups. And so, but the pool allows that, or the bike. So all together, I think it gives you actually more longevity.
Probably so. Do you think you'll do triathlons and kind of stick with that modality for your exercise? Or is there anything in you where you're interested in maybe trying something different?
I'm always up for a new adventure, but I think I would like to continue to race triathlons as I get older. I think I could see myself doing smaller distances and trying to get faster at them, like maybe Olympic or a half. I do want to go back out and conquer that full this November just because I felt like I can't let that beat me, that like I have to go and do that race. But then after that, I still want to be active and do triathlons. But I love doing other things too, like lifting. Well, weights it's a different type of thing, but I enjoy that. I mean, I would love to learn. I've never done, like mountain biking. I think mountain biking would be a really fun adventure, like learning how to get on trails. And I mean, because again, I love being outdoors. I don't have a mountain bike. My daughter does, and she runs around on it. But I think like that would be kind of something neat. Like when I talk to people that do it, they're like, it's just so much fun. It's a different type of workout. So I think I'd be very open to learning new things.
Have you ever seen the Xterra races?
Yes.
That's essentially your triathlons in the mountains.
Yes, which would be,
how cool would that be?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Again, it's an adventure.
Right. So this is a little different question. And part of what I'm trying to find in these conversations is what is it that makes people tick? So another way to say it is first principles or values or things that are the filter that you're making decisions through. So I think one way to find that is if you had 6 hours and you had no kids begging for your time or attention, and Corey left you alone for that amount of time, you had just 6 completely free hours to do whatever you wanted to do for yourself. How would you spend that?
Like completely for myself?
Not about other people.
Okay. If I had 6 hours totally to myself, I would head to the beach.
Okay.
And I would probably just take the longest walk on the beach. I'd go jump in the ocean. I'd go swim. I would be outdoors. I would do something outdoors because that's what is just refreshes me. The beach is my like peaceful place. That's the place I feel the most connected to God. I think I would want to be by water. I mean, if I couldn't head to the beach and I had to be here, I would head up to the lake and be out on Falls Lake. And I would just want to be by water, near water, and being outdoors. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, just being just at peace. Like my life is so fast paced with the kids and ministry. I never just get that truly alone. I'm always thinking about the next person we need to take care of, So honestly, and it would be doing a workout. Like I would do something, physical, whether just go get on a bike by myself. I mean, I've had times where it's like you just get on your bike for a couple hours and just hit the greenway, or that's so peaceful for me. Swimming, going up, jumping in the water. Like just, again, it's funny because it does kind of tie into the triathlons because if I had that time, I'd want to do something that was, peaceful, but also the exercise gets my endorphins kicked off. It makes me feel good. So like the life that I live is taking care of so many people all the time that it's like when you take that little bit of time to take care of yourself, oh my goodness, I don't need even the hours and hours. Like if I go get 1 hour, then I feel so much better for the day,
Yeah, so it's a way to take care of yourself so that you can pursue the things, taking care of people, the things in your life that take up the majority. What did you do before you had triathlon? How did you take care of yourself?
I probably, thinking about like went to the gym, worked out,
So had an exercise
out. Yeah, I would still exercise, even though I would still swim laps. I would still work out. I just really didn't know the world of triathlons. I knew really nothing about it until that first little race I did.
Gary Kirby was the first race I did too.
Really?
Yeah, because we lived on a neighborhood across the street. So it was close. It was short,
Yeah.
somewhat unintimidating.
Yeah. I was like, oh, it's a neighborhood race. That's how I took it. Like, oh, it's a fun neighborhood race at the pool and this will just be fun. And I really did it for my health. I was like, I got to get back healthy. I need to heal after my mom passed away. I was like, I just need something to get me going. But then I like did it and I'm like, oh my goodness, I love this. Like, I want to do more. And that kind of got me the bug. Someone said, you'll either catch the bug or you won't. And I was like, Corey didn't catch the bug. I caught the bug and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it's a real thing, like I think anything, you'll try things. And even like with our kids, they'll, I believe, like try everything. And then something you'll end up really enjoying,
So speaking of your kids, what do you want them to look back on this period of time in their life and in your life? How do you want them to describe that and describe you during that period?
I want them to be proud of me. And I want them to see that they can do anything they put their mind to. I also want them to see that in the midst of doing that I still put them as number one. Like it's God and my family, and then, then the extra things. And so like I've always tried to be creative with like how I train, like whether now they're older, so I can do it when they're in school, or on the weekends, it's like early before they get up, or, I still try to have that balance. And I think the biggest thing too, is I try to teach my kids is that my identity is not triathlon, right? Or being a triathlete or being an Iron woman. And there's no, you see people that will go get the tattoos and that's great. I mean, get it, you earned it. If you want to get a tattoo, get it. I have nothing against it. But for me, my identity I always say, I'm not a Iron woman, I'm a child of God, right? Like I'm his daughter. And then he's given me the ability to run this race. And so even like my daughter, who's a volleyball player, I always am like, Zoe, you're an amazing volleyball player. God has given you that gift. But what do you do if it's all stripped away? Like, what am I going to do if I can't go race the way I love to race one day? I still got to be confident in who I am. So I think the biggest thing is really like, even for my kids, like I want them to be proud of me, but like really say, man, I'm so proud of my mom. Like, she went and did that race. That's crazy. I am so proud of her. But I also like, they see how I live my life, that it's like in balance. I think when you do extreme sports or extreme adventures, sometimes it can
Over tilt.
Yeah. And so you have to have that balance still in your life. That's how I feel, but still with that love of adventure. I mean, they know I'm the first to. I just love adventure. So the funniest thing is, and I think it does have a lot to do with the fear. Like I don't have that fear as much. So it could be being in a foreign country. It could be, we got stuck in a lightning storm on Falls Lake and it was bad. Like it was really dangerous. And I was with my brother and his wife and we hunkered down with the kids and we were in the middle of the lake. We could not outrun the storm. There was nowhere to go. And lightning bolts were coming all around us. And I just started praying. Eventually, it blew away. We did not get struck by lightning that time. That was good. I did get struck by lightning once. That's another story. But you know what? Then after that huge, crazy storm, there was a huge rainbow. And so I think like seeing that rainbow, like knowing that rainbow is coming. So it's like, in any storm, any battle, any struggle, when you're doing an adventure, like you're going to have a struggle in the adventure. If you're it doesn't matter what it is, you will have some type of struggle, right? But then at the end of it, it's just like you look back and you're like, you see the beauty of it. Yeah. You see the beauty of the race, the journey, and it's so rewarding.
So you blew by two like major things. One is you got hit by a drunk driver and then got back to racing, and then you've been struck by lightning. So
that was a funny story.
You're going to have to explain both of those right now.
Okay. So the drunk driver I had gotten really sick with COVID. It like hit the whole house. We were quarantined for a month. This was 2 years ago. And I had also just gotten a brand new car. We had waited I had driven my van to the ground. I think I drove my van for 12 years and it was done. We had maybe 6 months earlier, we're going to get a new car. And so we got my new car and we're COVID free. We were just out of quarantine. And I looked at Corey and I'm like, we need a date. This was middle of the afternoon. The kids were home from school, doing school online. But Aladdin's, this little restaurant down in Briar Creek, I love to go sit out. I was like, can we go sit outdoors and just have lunch together? I was like, I have to get out of the house. I'm going crazy. So this was lunchtime. And he goes, yeah, that sounds great. He's like, I'm going to drive separate so that I got to get back on calls and get to work. And I was like, yeah, I need to get to the grocery store. And that sounds good. So Corey was in front of me. I was on 70 right near our house.
It's middle of the afternoon.
Lunchtime, noon. And a cop had pulled someone off on the side. And, so traffic, was piling up and having to get into one lane, merge into one lane. So we slowed down, merged into one lane. And I could see behind me a huge Tahoe flying, going 55 miles an hour down 70. And I knew I had nowhere to go because there was nowhere to go. I mean, my husband's in front of me. And I just remember thinking, oh God, please protect me, because he wasn't slowing down. And he smashed into the back of me so hard. He tried to, when he, I guess, saw me, he tried to turn the wheel. But what happened was, by doing that, I took all the brunt of the force on my side of the driver's side. And it was SUV. And the miracle is my kids are always in their car with me. We go to Briar Creek all the time. They're always with me. His car was so big, it went straight through the back of my car, where like in the back seat, like where my children would have been sitting. And thank God we had left him at home. It was like, we're leaving the kids. We're having a date, Miracle. Normally we'd have been like, oh, come on, kids, we'll all get out of the house. But I'm like, honey, we need a date. So it was a miracle that God kept the kids home that day. And then he came all the way through. And you know what happened to me? My head hit so hard on the back of my seat that I had a concussion. I mean, it was like my whole brain got jostled. And I just remember like numb, just like sitting there, just like almost like blacked out. And then like, are you okay? And your adrenaline kicks in. You're like, I'm okay. Because I'm like thinking nothing's broken. Like, I'm all right. And literally like the whole week, several days, it was probably like at least 5 days at night, I actually had a hard time finding words. And you can clearly see I have lots of words. And
normally a problem.
I actually couldn't speak. I mean, I was like, I like could not form my sentences, because my head injury was just so bad. It had to heal. I mean, I think my brain just got really
just
it felt like someone just slammed me on like the cement. Like that's how bad my head hurt. And then, I slowly healed, but it just felt like it just felt like one thing after another. My dad had a cardiac arrest and literally dropped dead in the front of his front yard mowing the grass. And it's amazing how my sister jumped in and began to do chest compressions, and the fire department arrived and shocked his heart, and he came back and was preaching like the next Sunday, But it was like one thing after another. And I was like, Lord, this is kind of a lot. And so my training really got kind of put aside on the side. And so now it's so fun to be back in a new season, like healed, recovered, feeling stronger, and kind of ready to go back at it.
I mean, some people would look at that and go, I just don't want to do this anymore. But it seems like you got to the other side of it and saw the rainbow from the storm. Did it give you a new sense of gratitude and thankfulness for being able to have that outlet?
Oh, yeah. And I think like I have in the last 2 years, like my health. So I had a day where I woke up. Again, this was 2 years ago. This was right before I got COVID. 2 years ago, I woke up. It was like autoimmune. I could hardly walk down my steps. Something in every joint in my feet, my body could hardly move. I went to running like Ironman training like that at that level. I could hardly get up and down out of my steps. And I didn't know it was wrong. And went to the doctor, and they're like, your ANA is through the roof high. That's your inflammation in your body. And we think you have lupus. And then from there, it went over to Duke, and they're like, no, maybe it's fibromyalgia. We don't know what you have. And so I just remember battling a lot of health issues and them trying to figure it all out. They're still trying to figure it all out. I have a doctor's appointment today when I leave here. But I'm determined to get well. And the pain in my feet is better. The pain in my body's getting better. They don't know if it's thyroid. They don't know. They're still trying to figure out. But what I do know is that I want to overcome kind of what's been thrown at me the last 2 years. Because again, when I saw that race this November, and I was sitting on the sidelines, like, I was still a part of the race because I was cheering everybody else on. And God gave me a different perspective. I was thinking about that verse, like those that go on before us, they're cheering us all on, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm in a different role. This season that God has me in is I'm cheering others on. But next year will be my season to come back out. And so I kind of like, I want to take it and even be grateful for the fact that I could be cheering people on, right? But that's not always easy, to be on the sidelines because of my physical health. And so now I'm getting stronger, better, learning, kind of how to overcome the obstacles I've been thrown. And so now it's a little more challenging. We say as you get older, it can get easier in some ways because you have more time. In other ways, you might have to learn how to overcome, different challenges that I used to say as I get older, Josh, I said, I'm going to be like a fine wine. I'm going to get better and better with age, baby. And my friends kept saying, just wait till you hit 40. Like, it's not going to be like that. I'm like, no, not for me. And then sure enough, I hit 40 and I'm like, what the heck? I can hardly get out of bed. What's wrong with me? And I do think there was like, some health issues. But now I just feel like there's just another little hurdle to jump. And I want to continue to do what I love. And I think it's even like, it's life-giving. And I'm a type of person, I love people so much that I have a hard time saying no to things. But if I have a race and I got to train for it, it's like I will set up boundaries. It helps me with boundaries, I think.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'll say, I love you, but after I go train for an hour, then I'll meet you. And then I can minister, right? So it actually kind of helps protect me a little bit.
So that's a lot to put on your shoulders. And all that happened in a short period of time. And, I almost envision you kind of coming up out of this pile and saying, all right, bring it on.
Yeah.
Like you got through it and it either crushes you and keeps you down or it's almost like jet fuel in the engine.
It is 100% jet fuel.
Yeah,
like, I'm like,
really
come on, let's do it. I'm like, I'm almost like angry that the last 2 years I could not do what I want to do. What I feel like
fire.
I definitely have a new fire inside me. And I'm like, I'm ready to just go for it. Like I want to have a year breakthrough, right? Like it's a year to, again, you can stay stuck in the mud. You can stay stuck by circumstances, or you can say, I'm going to get up and I got to have a change. Like nothing will change unless you do something different, right? Nothing will change unless we do something different. So I'm like, what is different? And accountability is what I need. So the last year I tried to do it on my own. I'm a very much like, get a book, read the plan, I'll go do it. Because because of my lifestyle of ministry, my hours and times are just strange. So I haven't been a part of like a triathlon club or really because of afternoons when they go train or they meet, I'm home doing homework with the kids and running them to a million sports. And
when do you do the
really
training?
When they're in school or early morning, Saturday morning. And see, Sundays are a big day. A lot of people train, but Sundays is gone for me, right? That's like our day at church and serving. And so really at school is when I really try to squeeze in as much as I can. Early mornings, Saturdays, and just try to squeeze it in when I can. But now it's so funny, the kids are getting older and even Saturday mornings are like their games, their sports. So I'm kind of like, all right, Lord, it really needs to be that Monday through Friday. It still can get in a long run or something on the weekend, but really try to do the bulk of my training during the week. And that's still juggling ministry. So it's like, meeting with people, praying with people, counseling with people. It's just trying to juggle it. And again, remember, the trick for me is I get half the amount of training in and then I pray my way through the other half. But I do about, as much as I can. And I have this funny thing that I do. So with that training plan I try to pick like a higher level plan. And then so I know, like I'll pick like the 8 or 9. That's like totally not even reasonable. But I'll pick a higher plan because I'm like, if I can train even at a higher level, then, when I can train, get the training in, then I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. But a lot of those plans you got 2-a-days
which
built
2-a-days
into there.
Don't typically happen. I try to squeeze it all in at one.
Oh, do it back to back?
Yeah.
I see.
Like I'll do like the bike and the run or the swim and a bike or, so.
Did you use Matt Fitzgerald's big triathlon training book?
I did use that. And that's what I kind of have gone by with the big ones, like the big, like the Ironmans, half Ironmans. I even looked at it for Olympic, but the real training, like when I really, really have like, okay, I've really got to train, then I've followed his plan. And that's been I feel like been a really good plan. I couldn't always do, maybe like I said, the full amount of what was required, but I knew if I could do as much as I could, I was going to be able to cross strong.
I'll be really interested to see what your performance numbers look like on the back end of working with a coach.
Yes.
Not only the accountability, she's going to keep you focused and doing what you need to do, but I'm sure she's going to have you training in the right way.
Yes.
That triathlon book is great. I lived out of that for years and it is an incredible resource, but having someone in your ear telling you what to do is different than opening a book up
and just reading. Yeah. Even things
today?
Like running, right? So we're like running, strength training. So she's working with me right now, just getting stronger. I feel like I'm kind of starting back over. So things like, okay, when you go out for a run, you're not just using your quads. Like you need to focus on your glutes. You need to like there's someone actually telling you how to run properly. And it makes a world of difference.
Totally different.
You're like, oh, I actually climbed up that hill without walking, because I focused on other muscle groups that maybe I wasn't when I was just doing it mindlessly, So I'm excited to have her. I'm working with her 2 days a week and I don't know for how long, but at least jumpstart me. And then she said, what she wants me to do is, this is so true with is just get a plan. So you do, I want you to sit down for the year. You have your big daddy coming in November. So now let's go ahead and go backwards. And okay, we need to start with probably an Olympic, a half, and even get in some runs, half marathon, and kind of build out the year. And then she's going to help me kind of work out a plan to prepare for all of those races to lead me up to the big one, which I'm excited about too, because sometimes it's like hodgepodge, like, oh, there's a race this weekend. Let me just, versus like, let me be really thoughtful for the year and plan. I think that's going to produce good fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 last questions. One of them is just kind of a quick, fun one. But if adventure was music, what would it sound like?
I think it's upbeat. I think it might be my Chariots of Fire theme song. Dun, 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 you got this.
That's totally adventure music.
I think maybe it's a Chariots of Fire. I think it is. Yeah, it's something that motivates you, to greatness. Like you can get on music and you're like, yeah, let's go. Hype you up,
It's interesting how listening to music can help override the body wanting to shut down and the brain saying, let's go.
Yes. And I don't know, I'm telling you, I know it sounds wild, but like I'm swimming, I'm singing in my head. I'm running, I'm singing in my head. I'm biking, I'm singing songs. Like it's helping me to like you said, get my mind off of the physical strain and just focus on like, the beauty and the goodness of who God is. And I literally, the other thing too, like I really give thanks the whole time. So I'm like, oh God, thank you for this beautiful day. And thank you, I can ride my bike. And like just staying in the attitude of gratitude, really like just Thanksgiving, like the whole way. It's amazing, I think, how your mindset, your endorphin, like you're able to do things and you can see people that maybe don't cross the finish line, or you can see people that struggle and, and it might not be the same mindset, oh, it's cold or this is miserable. Like,
I mean, to a large extent, and I've seen it with myself, whatever is running through my head ultimately is probably what's going to play out. Yes. So if I'm negative, that's going to snowball and I'm probably going to stop.
Yes.
But if I'm positive and that snowballs in a different direction, then it gives you that extra fuel in the tank to keep pushing. So
you really do, like, I don't know, it's like you are what you eat. Mm-hmm. I think, you are what you think.
Totally. Especially in
the world of adventure.
Adventure and endurance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. It's kind of a bucket list question, but one thing I thought about is if 16-year-old Jenny was looking at modern day Jenny going, oh my gosh, that is amazing that you are doing that. Okay, so modern day Jenny looking forward to 60-year-old Jenny, what do you think is out there that maybe seems a little bit unattainable right now, but might be in the back of your brain that seems interesting?
I think at the season I'm in right now, it's just, I know I'm going to accomplish it, but it's just my health. I think it's really, really getting healthy again. Those 2 years were really hard on me. So I am not in the Ironman shape today, but I know I will be.
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard for me to think about, I'm really satisfied. I'm really happy. Like, I don't think there's anything I could say, like, I really have to accomplish this, like, or I want to accomplish this when I'm 60.
You seem like somebody that lives in the moment. Like the past has informed you in what you do today, but you certainly don't seem to have your head in the future and worrying about that. No. And there's probably a big lesson for all of us. And
yeah, maybe I need to work on that a little more, Josh. As a financial advisor, you can get to help us with that. That's the balance between me and Corey. That's right. That's a different one. But no, honestly, I do live for today because I feel like I think losing my mom so young, I realized I only have today. And I really live my life like that. I mean, even how I try to love people, I want to love them well. And I used to say, oh, when I die, this is the big thing. When I die, I used to say, I just want people to say that I loved well. And then I thought about it longer. And I said, no, when I die, I really want people to say that Jenny loved well. She loved people to Jesus, not just loved well, but she loved people to Jesus, because I didn't want it to be to me, but I want to love well. And I want to live in that every day. So like when, the kids go out the door to school and Corey runs out the door to work, I kissing them, hugging them. I never have a day go by that I'm not trying to love those around me well, because I might only have today. And I think when you lose someone, my mom was my best friend. We were so close. And I had the knowing, like we're so connected. I mean, I remember sitting in the hospital bed holding her hand, and she just squeezed my hand and I squeezed hers, and I knew, and she knew. Even though we had faith till the end, God could do anything, but we had that knowing. And I think doing that, I just know how fragile life is. And I mean, even in races, I've been in races where people have passed away crossing the finish line and they ran their race. And I think that's what we're called to do, is run our race and run it well. But we're not promised tomorrow. So I would encourage people that are like wanting adventure or seeking adventure or curious about trying new things to go for it, because you have today. And you never know, like you don't want to live life with regrets. I think that's the thing. I want to go with whatever adventure's next, that whatever God has for me. And I think he'll tell me day to day.
Yeah. There's a lot I'll take from this conversation, but that'll be a big piece of it, is the living in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sit here. And one of the things I hoped with any of these conversations is that it would be authentic and real. And I don't think you've been anything except that. Thank this. You. And
hey, I didn't even know you had pushed record yet. I was just telling you my story.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that coming into this you thought you wanted to say, or anything that you want to add?
I think I just want to encourage people to not allow fear or the unknown to hold them back from just going for it, because you can do far more than you think you can do. And just like that story I told you out in the hallway, I said, when I first started as a little girl riding a bike, because I loved adventure, my dad was going to teach me how to ride that bike. And how do we start off learning? We start off with training wheels. Sometimes we start off small. It might be a small adventure. It was training wheels. And then I was ready to take those training wheels off. And we went into the field right at Shelley Lake, and he was running alongside of me. You can do it. You can do it. And he would say, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can do it. And I'm like, okay. And what did I do? I fell over. Yeah. And then I got back on the bike. He said, no, remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And I said, okay, Dad, got back on it. And all of a sudden I was biking. And I was telling you how funny it was, how when I first got on I was so tired of people passing me in those smaller races, because I didn't have a race bike. I didn't know what it was to be clipped in and to really have a road bike. Like, I didn't have that. And finally I was like, that's it. I'm into this. I'm going to race, and I am tired of people blowing past me. I'm going to get better on this bike. So I got my first bike, and I clipped in, and I was scared to death that I was going to get stuck and not know how to get out of the clips. And sure enough, I got my bike, and I was like, I'm going to just go around the neighborhood, and I'm going to learn how to ride this bike. And you got to imagine, I signed up for this huge race, and this is my first time on a bike clipped in. And so here I am, I hit my first hill and I panic, and I'm doing the gears the wrong direction, and I'm making it, harder instead of easier. And I fell completely on my side in the middle of the road in my neighborhood, still clipped in, totally trapped. My fear had, come to pass. And I'm looking around to see if anyone saw me, because I'm totally embarrassed, And then I get out, unclip, get out, shake off, I'm a little scratched up, get up. And I was like, well, my worst fear just happen, and I'm fine.
You're fine.
So I'm going to get back on my bike, and I'm going to keep going. And then, it's amazing. Then I learned I could bike 112 miles.
Yeah. Man, that's a great story, because it shows your overcoming spirit, but it's a perfect metaphor for anything hard.
Yeah.
You learn from the failure, expect to fail.
Yeah.
And learn from it.
And get back up on that bike.
And get back on the bike.
That's right.
All right, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This was fun.
You.
Okay. Man, I really enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. The next one will be coming at you in a couple weeks, so stay tuned. Until then, I hope you have your own great adventure.